Do you want to make more money in less time with less stress? Most people I ask that question of say yes. If that's you and you want to be the best loan officer you can be, if you want this business to set you up for success in ways unimaginable, come spend 4 days with me, May 8th through the 11th in Newport Beach, California. I'm going to be your guide for 4 days and walk you through the complete owner's manual on how to get the business and life of your dreams. Come join us May 8th through the 11th. It's going to be a special time. Your life will be changed forever.
Get ready to succeed using our cutting-edge high-trust strategies and achieve the success you've always dreamed of both on and off the job. Welcome to Todd Duncan TV. Are you ready?
Hey, it's Todd Duncan. Welcome to Todd Duncan TV, episode 38. If you did not watch 37, you would not know why I have a beard and look a little bit disheveled, but I'm going to tell you just in the event you did not. I'm fresh off a return trip to Australia. I spent 11 days down there and just landed and had a couple of ideas that before they got old, I wanted to share with our TV listening group and viewing group. So that is why I'm where I'm at and in the state I'm in. So I wanted to talk to you about just an experience that I had that I think really plays well into the hands of you being, a professional in the commission-based world of trying to get people to love you and trust you and refer business to you on a regular basis. And one of the things that I made a decision on before I went over there, and it really is the backbone of high trust selling. High trust selling is about taking the spotlight off of you, about putting it on the customer. And the idea behind that as a metaphor is the sale is not about you. The sale is never about you. It's never about your company. It's never about your products. It's not about any of that. What it's about is the customer. And it starts with the customer feeling valued, right? And that's really what kind of selling, if you will, gets down to. And so the decision I made is that I had this opportunity. I'm going to fly, to Australia. I'm going to have a couple presentations down there, and then I've got a chance to meet with leaders and decision makers to whom I've been referred. By the way, side note, I used our own circle of cash flow in setting those meetings up and having those introductions set up. And I'll talk briefly about that on this episode. But the most important part of this episode is the idea that if you really, really want to build an ongoing track of referrals that just happen time in, day in, day out, time and time again, it requires you to not focus on you. It requires you to focus on the customer. So one of the things that I did is I made a decision that I would meet face to face with everybody that I could get an appointment with in Australia. And so it's a fairly big mortgage market. It's a $1 trillion+ mortgage market. There's five major banks, and then there's about 30 smaller banks, and then there's 10 to 15 aggregators that have loan reps that work for them, and and then on and on. So you know the drill there, right? And by the way, if you're watching this from Australia, it was great to hang with you guys, and good to be part of the Better Business Summit, and really enjoyed our time there. So what I did is in advance, we set appointments, face-to-face appointments with these decision makers, influencers of the ultimate consumer in Australia, getting a mortgage loan and obtaining financing. So there's no difference, in what that continent does and what we do here in America, or what I guess I should say, what everybody does in the global economy. If you are a mortgage lender, you have a end goal to provide people with financing and then keep them engaged with you for life. So when you start to think about engagement for life, you have to start to think about how does the whole thing start? And I could easily have these same conversations over Skype. I could have them, using Zoom, any of the tools that are out there. I could certainly have that. But it does not, I repeat, does not allow for connection to be at the level it otherwise could be at. And so here's my first lesson of this video. If it is the first time you have ever interacted with this potential customer it must be face-to-face. Now, I say that fully aware of how technology is creeping in and pushing itself into the sales transaction and all of that. And I want to go on record telling you that I am not technology avoidant. Okay, I am not even really technology resistant, although I am in some of the things that can take life out of a sales career, like excessive email and like texting and like a lot of those things. Now, again, I text and, we do email, but it's about how I block and tackle on that stuff because I believe in technology. I believe it's here. I believe it can provide a value. I believe technology can aid in the speed with which a customer is able to transact with us. I think there's a lot of positives to there, but if it's the first time you've ever met with somebody, you can't do it except if you do it face to face. Now, just so we're clear on this, I flew 10,000 miles to have face-to-face conversations. Specifically went over there with the desired end result to have impact. It wasn't about selling anything. It was about having impact and learning what I could do. And what I believe in and what I think the value of this particular lesson is, have you really ascertained the benefits of the face-to-face meeting? I saw a post that came in on Apple News recently from one of our coaches, and he said, "You're going to love this." And the actual Apple News segment said, 10x your volume, increase your face-to-face appointments. And I love that because it supports what I believe in. And I think that as you think about face-to-face with a seller, a buyer, a borrower, as you think as a leader, a recruiter about face-to-face, as you think about a business that does have to recruit people into its ecosystem, if it's the first time that you've ever met with that person, it's got to be face-to-face. And here's 4 reasons why. Firstly, if there is a face-to-face meeting, there usually is less distraction. If I'm with a human being and that human being is with me, odds-on chance that we're not going to have a lot of distraction that gets in the way of that. Okay? Just to prove this point out, distraction happens without us knowing. We can be having this video shot right now and the phone could ring, or this video could be shot right now and somebody from another office could shout out and say whatever they need to say, or I could be interrupted by my phone buzzing, or there's lots of ways in which we get interrupted, and there's a tendency when we're not 4 feet away from a prospect, there's a tendency to let other peripherals, if we're on a video con or a con call or something like that, there's a tendency to let things interrupt that. And that we don't even intend to have those things interrupt. So that'd be number 1. There's less distraction. Number 2, you get this amazing ability to harness what I call 360-degree body language. What does that mean? 360-degree body language is to understand that if I talk to somebody on the phone, it's not close to 360. It is this kind of unilateral, one-dimensional type of communication. I can change that up a little bit with tonality, with modulation, with volume. I can change it up that way, which is great. And that's in the world of neuro-linguistic programming. That's called pacing and leading and mirroring and matching, right? To match your client and to be able to do that. I can do that without them seeing me, right? But when I'm there in person, the audio is only one dimension. I have the body language dimension, okay, I have that, and I have the words and the conversation dimension. If I'm right here with you, we have an entirely different conversation. I can speak the same words, but because I'm with you now, they are brought alive. And what the stats tell us is 38% of communication is the way the words are said, and 55% of communication is the body language in the way that they're said. So if I don't meet face-to-face, I'm carving out at least, think about this for just a second, I'm carving out at least 55% of the positivity of body language and a good portion of the 38% of the word usage. So I've got 7% of words. I've got, 93% of the other communication that really goes into how the words are said and the body language that comes along with it. So you can lean forward, you can lean back, you can nod your head yes to confer, you can turn your head no like you have a question, or, there's all kinds of ways when you're face to face to engage using 360-degree body language. So what I would tell you is the faster that you can connect with a human being, the more likely they are to experience a transfer of trust, which means tension will alleviate, which means they're likely to say yes. So you think about this and you go, okay, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So then what I want to do is I want to realize that I have, in the purest sense of technology, a very, very remote possibility that this conversation will be interrupted. If I'm on a connection, I can have my camera go out, I can have my internet go out, I can have the little sign pop up, your bandwidth is low, video interactivity may be interrupted. I can have all that stuff go on, right? And if we're talking about, in the case of real estate and financing, if we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in transactional value, in terms of what the consumers, you don't want anything to black out. You don't want any disconnect. You don't want to have to redial. You don't even want to wait 5 to 7 seconds for the internet to reconnect, right? So the face-to-face meeting avoids that from happening. So that is a big, 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 big deal. So these three are important, right? Less distraction, 360-degree body language, no failed technology in terms of connection and whatnot. Here's the fourth reason. The fourth reason is relationship, and it's the most important reason. So back to how we opened this video. I flew to Australia in my head, knowing that I didn't want to sell anything. I wanted to learn as much as I could about the people I was meeting with. And I have to tell you, it was pure magic to be able to sit down and simply look at somebody. Tell me about your company. Tell me about you. Tell me about your success. Tell me about your challenges. Tell me. It wasn't too long after 2 or 3 tell me's that it changed. And they would say, well, so tell me about your business. Tell me about. I walked away from every meeting, every one of the meetings, I walked away with a relationship, and I am counting on that relationship growing over time, and many of them are starting this upcoming week because of that relationship that was established at the face-to-face meeting. Many of them are already materializing into business proposals, potentially business contracts, and most importantly, business relationships. So I want you to think about this for a second. I want you to think about connection. I want you to think about, you have all the time in the world if it helps you build deeper relationships that have more connectivity, that have more trust, that have a higher conviction to use you, a higher desire to refer you, and a deep, deep, deep commitment to let you serve them for life. You have all the reason in the world to demand face-to-face appointments. You need to go where they are if they're a business. They need to come to you if they're a borrower. You need to, somewhere in the middle, have this happy medium so you're not driving all the way around, okay? And you gotta be able to go face-to-face. I believe very, very, very sincerely that if you go face-to-face, conversion goes up because connection goes up. And if connection and conversion go up, then you're able to close that relationship into a business relationship. And if you don't meet face-to-face, you might still be successful, but you might have to do a lot more work to get there. So I wanted to lay this down. My voice is groggy because I've been on an airplane for 15 hours and a little dehydrated, but I got to tell you, man, I count as a significant blessing doing in Australia what I have just reiterated to you, which is part of the backbone of high trust. There's no substitute for meeting face to face.